Welcome to Resilience Gone Wild. I am so thrilled to welcome Stella Diamant. Did okay with pronouncing that, I think. To wrap up this incredible season and to wrap up shark season, which has been such a highlight. And I did an episode that hopefully, if everybody hasn't listened already, go back an episode and listen all about whale sharks and the resilience we can learn about thick skin, which Stella and I are going to chat about. And I am just thrilled to introduce Stella. We're going to learn about oceans and whale sharks and conservation and the incredible work that Stella is doing. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. Where to start? I'm from Belgium, but I always loved the natural world and always wanted to have an impact and find my place of impact, which took a while. Initially, I studied biology. I was quite shy as a kid, always outdoors, and I thought I wanted to be a vet. And then when I did an internship as a vet, I hated being indoors and it just wasn't what I was looking for. So eventually, after studying biology for 3 years, I ended up qualifying for a random volunteering stint in Madagascar with WWF. That was back in 2011. And I was stuck there for 4 months, literally in the middle of nowhere in a fisherman village. And that really opened my eyes to another world where we live really next to nature and where people are struggling. So that's kind of how I discovered conservation in action. And I realized there was a lot of work to do, regardless of, your career or your origin or your sex. There was just a lot of work to be done so that, people could live a bit more in harmony with nature. But then, I went on to do.
It's so interesting that you found that in a place that, without understanding that complexity, there's sort of, I think, this assumption that you go to some, remote, beautiful place where people are, and the fishing, their life is about fishing and about connecting to nature and the ocean. And the reality is that there's a disconnect because it's survival for the humans as opposed to like a really deep connection of living together. The way I would think, generations and generations and history was all about the connection in these remote areas. So talk more about that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I think we're a bit biased in places like Belgium because we kind of grew up with that narrative, right? And it still exists in many places. The issue now is remote places like a fisherman village in Madagascar, they're not the only ones fishing anymore. You have, industrial fishing, you have all of these other threats that are now making it really difficult for them to continue having that lifestyle, which is kind of our fault a bit because we're driving that need. So that to me, that I didn't realize. And when you look back in time and still some communities, they know what to do. They know when to fish some species at a certain time of the year. And there is all of that connection and respect. It's just that now there's all these other threats in the world that they have to adapt as well. And they have to, do things they wouldn't do normally just to survive. And that, I experienced that very strongly living with the village I was in. And there's so much space for them to find other livelihoods or to adapt. It's just, there's very little help and there's very little organizations or people bridging that gap, So that's where I felt I could contribute, I guess. And then.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I went back a few years after because obviously Madagascar, it's one of these places you love it or you hate it. For me, opened so many things in myself. It was, it's a very special place. And, I went back randomly to kind of scout for job opportunities. And that's when I saw whale shark, kind of what you described. It's, I didn't realize they were so big. They were so slow. They were so easy to see. And there it was, this project that I had been dreaming of founding or leading. It was just there on a plate waiting for someone to do it. So that's kind of how I got started. 10 years ago now.
Well, it's so interesting. You just said so many things that, lead down other pathways. One of them is just, the story of following a sense of passion and purpose and just being open to the journey. Right? Like without preconceived, norm-driven, you study biology, you should be a biologist, or you should be a vet, you should follow some like Western career path, right? That will support you and keep you local and keep you safe, right? Like, and then there's this whole world out there. And, I've talked to so many adventurers like you. I mean, I would call it an adventurer who just is determined at a young age to connect with this natural world, make a difference, and follow where it takes you, with this internal passion that's driving it that other people just don't have any idea what's going on in your brain and your heart and your whole body pulling you towards these specific species and specific goals and specific caring about the world and people. So yeah, there's this passion that just bursts forth, right?
Yeah, but I have to say to make it a bit more realistic, I think part of why I ended up doing that was also because I couldn't find really my place here, and it's, I look back at this with a lot of wisdom now, I guess. But yeah, I just couldn't get a job in what I wanted here, the field here in, conservation. I mean, Belgium's a tiny country. I studied in the UK, but it's very competitive. There's very few jobs. There's very few paid jobs. There's a lot of very good people, who speak languages, who are able to afford the life experiences, the internship. So it was a bit out of, I don't know. I kind of thought to myself, yeah, why not? What can I lose doing this? And I really think we all need to be a bit more like this now, especially the next generation, because there's so much work to be done. It's just, it's not on your doorstep, or it's not, readily prepared for you, but there's so much to do still and to explore.
Unlimited, right? And that's the whole point. Like, there's unlimited unknowns. And if we keep working together to bring forth the exploration, the research, and the information, like, we'll hopefully stop destroying what we're pretending we don't know. So therefore we can do what we want as humans. That's, my side thing after studying social justice and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the stuff that comes into my head. That's an important aspect, I think, of what you do. So I don't want to jump too quickly to thick skin, but I want to sort of step in it for a second, which was my resilience lesson, which is one of the many unique aspects of whale sharks, is that they're the largest non-mammal on our planet. It's just crazy, right? But the thick skin is like, I live in inches, so 4 inches, I can't remember, is that 10 centimeters? Anyway, like, there's just so much depth, no pun intended, to this thick skin idea. And it just reminds me of the process that you went through, where there was probably a lot of rejection, a lot of competition, a lot of questioning of your path. What comes to mind when you think of thick skin and this whole metaphor around whale sharks?
Yeah, very true. But I think generally conservation is just that. It just keeps getting more difficult. There's less and less funding around. You have to be very solid. And then it's completely, unpredictable in terms of what's going to happen, whether your 5-year plan is going to come through, having to adapt and reassess and pivot. And it's, this whole way of being, it became very familiar to me. And I realized, early on I like to adapt and, go from one place to another, not just traveling, but, it's these kind of jobs, they take us through a lot of stuff. You have to be able to pitch, you have to be able to tag a shark, train local students to speak to authorities. It's really having to navigate all of this. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. A bit less now, but it used to be very difficult. Yeah. Especially being, I was 26 when I started this whole whale shark journey, and I didn't know a thing, honestly. So you just have to learn like everyone else. But it's, it's difficult initially, and you fail and you're not good at what you do, and you have to accept a lot of criticism. But eventually, you grow older and you become very good at what you do.
Yeah. So, and then you lead others to feel good about it, right? Yeah. There's a few things I do my research before I have these conversations, and there are a few interesting things I wanted to ask you about in terms of like mentorship. I mean, I found you through starting with David Ebert, who do you know Dave?
We're going to meet in a few weeks. He's coming.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, that's right. I mean, he's on a similar path to yours in terms of, honoring rare species and protecting them, because we need to share and we need to learn from. Like, the opportunity to do research from square one is from a blank slate, pretty much, right? It seems really cool. And then Dave sent me to Simon Pierce, and he was an early mentor, and the lessons of mentorship became, and then Chris Rohner, who eventually is like, he can't do it. Everybody's in the water, like everybody's got their projects. Like I don't available, but maybe Stella is. She might be in between Belgium and Madagascar. I don't know, but so mentorship. Let's go down that a little bit. Like, what does that offer? What lessons, can you continue down that lesson of being able to stick with it and learn and not feel bad about not knowing?
Yeah, pretty much, 10 years ago, I was training with Chris and Simon in Tanzania when I decided to quit my other job and jump in this whale shark life. I didn't know a thing, and they were very nice to just say, yeah, come over. We'll train you up. And yeah, I suffered. It was difficult. The first, I stayed for a month with them and I was honestly useless, but they all, they were supportive and they told me, you'll get there. Don't worry. And I did. And Chris is still analyzing our data to this day, or data from tags, and Simon's been over, more than a few years. At the beginning, he's taught me, everything I know about whale sharks pretty much. And so I've been very lucky that way. But I have to say, I did contact other people before who, plainly said, we don't have time or funding, or we don't see the value of what you do. So it's been difficult finding the right people. But I think when you do, it just clicks, and it's really a privilege in the whale shark world because we all get on really well. It's a small community. There used to be these, whale shark conferences before COVID where we would all meet, and then, it's like a big family. At least most of the people I know are like that. So quite often one will come because they're around or they can come to help. So it's really nice to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're covering the whole world. So like it's funny they're around, like somebody's in Madagascar coincidentally. Like it's not that easy to find each other.
Yeah, there's more and more people now, and there's people working in different regions, so it still is it's impossible to know everyone. But what I really cherish with what I've had is that it's always been constructive, It's never been there's always like an opportunity for you to grow, even if at times it's not fun or you have to review your paper or redo something, but you always learn at the end. And I think with the right support, it's only beneficial, to grow this way. But of course, you need to find the right person that will push you the right way. And with Simon, it was very easy for me.
And, if you translate that to the whale shark world, you're only going to be able to protect and save a species and study a species that moves, that doesn't just sit in one spot, that migrates and that has such a diverse life over its life, with doing this alone in one spot. It seems like this is like the perfect example of how challenging it can be. So do you want to talk a little about that? One of the things I learned from you that I didn't know, that I didn't put in the other episode about whale sharks, was, if I understand it right, you see this large migration towards these feeding grounds in a very small part of their life. If I have it right, it's like, teenage years, 15 to 18 kind of thing, at a certain size. And then you've been tagging them, but they grow slow enough so that the tags have years. We need years before we know what they do as adults.
Yeah.
To solve, to answer some of these mysteries. So it's like, this just seems like you need the global world of shared research to make this species really more understood. What comes to mind around that?
Yeah, they're being difficult to study once they leave the feeding grounds, which is pretty much in most places in the world where we see them. It's near the coast. That's why you easily go on a boat to swim with them, but they're all juvenile. So in that respect, it's been easy enough, I'd say, for me to, let's say, copy what were other people doing and do it in Madagascar, because it's a very similar way of collecting data, of, working with the tourism industry to regulate the whale shark tourism. But then after that, it's just, who knows? I don't think we have the technology yet to know what they do beyond that, because we believe they live more than 100 years. where do they go from Madagascar? We don't know. We just know that the adults we never see. So it's only the teenagers. And when they get quite big, we stop seeing them. So there's definitely something else happening with that. And I think hopefully one day with the, the new technology and all the exploration, we can figure out what's happening before, after they reach, Madagascar, for example. So I think it really needs expertise on all levels. And that's been kind of eye-opening to me, because I really thought, okay, this is quite an applied project. We collect data, we analyze, we publish, we share it with authorities. It's kind of the usual way it goes when you're in the field. But there's so many other aspects or technology we could be using. So it becomes very multidisciplinary in the way you communicate with other people, with other languages locally, but also, with different audiences. Communicating with the government is very difficult to communicating with tourists on the boat, for example. And then, beyond that, we need so much, different technology, different programs, different expertise. So it's not just scientists that are going to save whale sharks. I think we need literally everyone on board. Yeah, with different skills.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting species and so many amazing challenges, because since they live in the deepest ocean and they're solitary creatures, and somehow they seem to reproduce, but as adults, they don't come back to some feeding ground where you find them together. Like, you can't just send a drone out and take, and find them because they're only at the surface a little bit. And the ocean is pretty darn huge, right? So you don't know where to look for them. There aren't that many, I guess. And so the task of learning about their adult life is just mind-blowingly daunting to think about for me. And I imagine that, there's some great conversations that are happening within your community about what potential future technologies might be available. And I'm really curious. I didn't get, I don't have a sense of this. How long do the tags that you have now possibly stay on? I know that there was a lady, Ida, in the Mexico area, and she must have been young, because she was tagged as, and came back as a juvenile, I guess, as a teenager, but one lasted 6 months and now it lasted 4 years. Are the tags, do you think, going to stay on long enough to?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, now I know they're testing new technology with the fin clamps. So basically, you open it and you clamp it around the fin, and it's going to stay there. But it depends if you have acoustic tags or satellite tags. The ones we have at the moment are acoustic, so they're attached by a little tether and falls off relatively easily. But the battery life is for a few years, so never know. But likely they're not gonna last for 10 years, I don't think. So yeah. That's
actually, you made a comment about Mars. We can go, I think I heard you say, we can go to Mars, and we're planning on batteries and all that kind of stuff that can go that long. It seems like this is a low-hanging fruit place to be able to do this research for longer longitudinal studies.
Yeah, but it's just, to my knowledge, there just isn't that technology around, because I think this is why it's so important, podcasts like yours and, educating the public about this, because everyone thinks we know everything about the ocean and we can, we just put a tag and we can follow an animal for years. But this is Netflix stuff. Really in the field, it's already so hard for you to have, the right moment when you can tag. There's all sorts of ethics that come into play. You don't stab an animal without warning everyone around you. You need the right permits. You need to know which shark it is so you can have the photo ID as well. So there's already a lot of things that happened before, plus getting the equipment over to a place like Madagascar, which is just very complicated. And then once it's done, it's, it could fall off the next day. It could last for a few months. The ones we have at the moment, I would say, is average, around 2 years maybe. And then at the same time, you never know really with the acoustic array that we have, if the shark doesn't come back, we don't know, if the shark has lost the tag or not. So there's all of these unknowns that pop up. And I think now the really good tags that they use, say in the Galapagos, they last, a year. It's pretty much the maximum, which, for an animal that lives 100 years is nothing. Summer holiday for them. So I think, sharks for that, they really keep us on our toes, because they're not like mammals when they come back to the surface to breathe. And then that way we can have a regular signal. Sharks, if they don't want to come back up, they will just stay there. So, we with Simon, we tagged the first year in 2016 with the satellite tags to know how far they were going to go off from our study site. And yeah, I think they didn't last 6 months. None of them did. But 6 months already great, for whale sharks.
Yeah.
So we still, getting there.
I mean, you got to learn about their up and down depth, and there was some really good learning that came out of that, right?
Yeah. So it's really, you would think by now we would have the technology and the funding to do that kind of stuff. But I think sadly it's not on the agenda of the world today to know what whale sharks do. But yeah, in a way, I find that comforting that we still don't know. We still cannot follow some animals that deep. I think that's important also that there's so much we don't know yet.
So I volunteer at a marine life center, and the focus there is on sea turtles, loggerheads and leatherbacks and greens in Florida. And we tag when we can. It's expensive. I don't know. I can't imagine. I have no idea what it costs you to put a tag on, but it might be like $10,000 to put a tag that doesn't last forever. Right. And you need to find a donor who is willing to get so excited. And then it's so amazing because you put it on your website and you can follow the turtle going up and down. Their satellite tags. You can follow them going up. But there's a leatherback that is tagged, and a leatherback lives some ways a similar life to a whale shark, right? Like they're this gigantic creatures, and they live deep in the ocean, and they forage deep in the ocean for their massive jellies that they eat, the lion's mane and then, those tags have to survive depth and they do come up to breathe. So that's a bonus, right? Like that's like a big advantage over whale sharks for studying them. But it's incredible that, what the technology has to manage, has to survive to follow a creature like that in the ocean. So, we underestimate how hard it is to do this research, right?
Yeah, the depth, I forgot to talk about the depth, but whale sharks, we know they go to at least, 2,000 meters deep, and they can stay there. They don't have any reason to come back up. So you need something that can stand that compression, that pressure, that will keep your data in there if there is any. It's really, it's quite complicated, but equally.
So how do you get the data? Wait, how do you get the data back? Not until you find them again?
There's many different ways. Either you can kind of plan it so that each time the shark is at the surface, uploads to Argus, say, and then you get little bits of data, or you can plan it so that you get it all in one go. It kind of depends of the tag specificities, but it's always a bit of a stress. when I
imagine, yeah. So I thought, you just said something that I thought was really interesting. Many things again, but one just hit me that leatherback turtles, to deal with the depth, don't have a hard shell. They have a different skin and structure that compresses like an accordion, so that it can handle the depth and the pressure. And whale sharks have this thick skin. I don't know if their form changes when they dive super deep or not, if they elongate or, something changes about them, but their body has to be very differently formed to manage the cold and the pressure.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, we don't know what they look like when they're that deep, but for sure they seem to have just this ease of, traveling through depth without any limitations, without any speed limits, or, not like the restrictions you would have when you scuba, which is pretty mad, right? I think there was, a few years ago, there was an ROV that picked up a whale shark descending, and it's just like head down, like diving down completely vertical, which, we rarely see. They're more like floating around when we see them. So they're just supernatural in that regard.
So incredible. And just the idea that there's this total mystery, because if you only get to see them when they're teenagers and they live for another 100 plus years, a whole lack of any knowledge of their reproductive life, of their mating, and the incredible, the find of that one whale shark, the female that had 300 or 400 developing embryo in her, I shared a little bit about it in my episode, but if you wouldn't mind going down that, because I imagine that's a really like you guys are talking about that all the time because it's the only thing you know about reproduction. So you want to share the story? It's such an amazing story.
Yeah. So it was in 1995, which is a while ago now. And there was a pregnant adult female cohort. And yeah, they opened her up and she had, I think, 304 pups, whale shark pups. The interesting thing is that not all the pups were at the similar age. So you could see there's one really old picture that's left from that encounter. And you can see some pups are already ready to pop out, and others are still kind of, not out of the sack. So yeah, it raises all sorts of questions. Are they all coming out at once? Are they coming out one after the other? Or in batches? Like, who knows? But I think they can also have siblings in there, possibly.
Yeah, who knows, right? It's incredible.
Yeah, it's just and you'd imagine that, yeah, the female is just going to wait when it's the right place, and yeah, everything's aligned, then she can, have her pups. It's crazy. And also to think that once they're out, there's no interaction. They're not like mammals where the young stay. So it's, it's crazy to think about that. And we often wonder, does it mean there's high predation? Probably, if there's that many pups. And obviously the thickness of the skin is lower when they're younger. So probably they're, great little snacks for tiger sharks and all of that. So how many of a litter will survive? So likely very few. And when you put that in perspective of, it's already so rare to see whale sharks. And then when you see them, like when we do in Madagascar, they're juvenile. So fast forward, say, 15 years from now, you see the same whale shark again, pregnant or about to give birth, or maybe ready to mate, for the opportunity to find another adult whale shark in the ocean today, with everything that's going on with all the fishing, pollution, military, is mind-blowing that they can still, mate and survive. So I think, when you put it into perspective, it's just crazy. They still exist, honestly.
It's so funny. I'm like imagining and I'm sort of putting it in a Disney movie imagination, like these two happy whale sharks, and they're like come upon each other after years of looking for a mate, right? And they're like, oh my God, yay! Like this incredible, like this is the coolest thing in the world. I found someone to mate with, and it has to be, a male and a female too. Like I would imagine you'd see each other and then you're like, darn.
But we don't know. That's the thing. Maybe they bump into each other all the time because they're all into this other area no one knows about. That's very deep.
Right. Yeah.
This is all unknown for now. And yeah, it's, I don't know when we'll get there. Probably a chance encounter, and bit by bit, like this Taiwan story will just have more pieces in the puzzle. And at some point it will make sense.
It's a beautiful development of a story. And then you need people like you doing the research, or otherwise we don't pay attention to them and they disappear without being noticed, right?
Yeah, but I think, like I said before, I think it's, the natural world now is disappearing so fast. I think we need everyone on board. And like I told you, the ROV footage, that was new, and it wasn't from a scientist. It was from a robot in the Mariana Trench, I think. So I think we need this awareness in everyone that you can make a difference and you can contribute and record everything you see, not just like stupid stuff you see in the street or clothes, but, actual natural stuff, because it could be of interest. Or I think it's just that general awareness of, everyone could have the chance to see something amazing related to wildlife. Yeah, we need to bridge that gap of, whale sharks are so amazing. This is why we need to pay extra attention to that species. And there's so many other species. So I think it's, in a way, it could be anyone stumbling upon this.
Yeah, I touched on citizen science in some other episodes, and the whole idea of contribution, going out in the ocean, and instead of looking to, or wherever you are, whether it's on land or ocean, and instead of looking to take what you want, the idea of looking to contribute and to give without anything except the joy and maybe, the coolness of influencer, that'll get you riled up, like how many how many likes you can get or followers you can get for cool videos. But I know in the panhandle of Florida, I think there's been some whale shark activity, and there's people out there instead of, and now they're protecting the whale sharks because they are just the coolest creatures, and they're out there filming them and keeping the boats away from them and safe. And maybe I'm exaggerating that, and I'm in hopeful mode, but that there's research coming in from when the whale sharks are coming in toward the coast for these feeding grounds, which are expanding because of climate change. Beyond, I don't think that the panhandle of Florida was a likely feeding ground until the ocean's warmed a little bit. I don't know, but like the whole citizen science thing is just such a highlight, and this ecotourism that combines with it. So now you can be part of the story, and you can pay for the access in a safe way, safe and protected way. It gives an income stream to those who were destroying and now they're saving. This is your world. So I want to take that and run with it and give your story of it.
Yeah, I feel it's a sensitive topic because I think the idea is great and I think we can all contribute, but there's like for really, say in my case, for someone to come in Madagascar and really be helpful, you need to have the right training, you need to be able to swim, to free dive, to speak French. There's a few things that limit the reach of, like, we cannot just have everyone on board. And also in terms of this voluntarism, how you call it, it's also a lot of work, like really a lot of work. So people have the right experience, they have the right accommodation. Cause for some people, it's a dream they've had their whole lives. We've been running a program like that. We stopped end of last year for various reasons, but mainly because it was just too much work for us. And we were failing to do what we initially came out for, which is study whale sharks, because it was taking so much time and resources, and not very lucrative in the end. But we've had many people from, different jobs or different parts of the world just coming to contribute. And it's been so rich. And we've had people who, didn't dare to take a flight, who came all the way because they wanted to experience that, and who now can share the word. So I think it's, when done right, it's a beautiful experience. And I would really encourage people to look for that. But really, I think we have to be quite selective now, because it's sadly also becoming like a very lucrative business of, welcoming people abroad to do science, and it's not really science. And quite often the data is not used for the right reasons, and it's just not changing a thing. So I just warn about that.
Yeah, it's so important that you just, among other things that you said, sometimes the data is not used for the right reasons. It's used to show that they are not important enough, and that they can be.
Yeah, or it's just not used. Because that's the thing, again, not many people realize, but it's to collect the data in the right format, and then to be able to use it, like for the publications, or mainly it's that, but to make it readable and accessible in other languages. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a job, really. Chris is helping me with the modeling, because I have given up on that long ago. But for the data you collect to make sense and have an impact locally, it's a lot of work. So you kind of need to check it's being used for that, because often in many places data just sits there because there's no expertise available to use it. But on a broader scale, just anyone being in the field and finding a shark as a diver or on a boat, just taking the photo of the left side, which is kind of a unique pattern of each whale shark. Just that can make a difference in this. Now you have a global platform called Sharkbook that is free access, so anyone can submit their data. And usually each region has a kind of a lead scientist. So like I oversee the Madagascar database, and then that way we can collect the data. But often, if you search a bit, you can easily find the research project that's managing the data and send it directly to them. And I think often that's kind of what's missing a bit. And I would really encourage people to just be a bit more proactive with that, because little projects like mine, we're not always on social media looking for people's footage. We just have a lot of other work to do. But
that's a whole nother job.
Yeah.
Right? Like to search and find what's out there.
Yeah. If you take 5 minutes to find out, is there a project locally, or even contact one of the wider projects, usually it ends up going back to the people who need it. And then that way it's really usable.
That's beautiful. So shark book, everyone who's listening, if you happen to take a picture of, I assume any shark, but if you get a whale shark, yay. And don't just put it up on your YouTube channel. Like, tell somebody, share it. It's really important information. I wanted to ask you, it's interesting, this whole ecotourism is so appealing, to like someone like me to go out and this, it feels like such an easy opportunity. Well, not easy. I can fly to Madagascar or wherever and be there at the right time, at the right place. And I was, when I interviewed Francesca Page, the artist, about sharks and whale sharks a couple of weeks ago, she told a story, which I imagine is part of it for you as well, that, she was working as a photographer on tourist boats, and she would be the first one in and the last one out. And that the whale sharks and the manta rays she was working with at the time that were very available. She was off the coast of New Zealand or Australia at the time. Didn't like the chaos of all the tourists and all the boats and whatever, and they can go deep. So they would disappear. But when they all got out of the water and she was the only one left, and she was open to having this like really gentle, kind relationship with them, they would come back. And ecotourism sounds great, but it disrupts life. So what's your advice on all that?
Big topic as well. And it's been something I focused on a lot in Madagascar, because I was lucky in a way when I started that it was just starting, the ecotourism. It was just starting to develop. And then with Simon, we had this hope that, if managed the right way, it doesn't have to be a mess. So initially there were only a few operators that, I got to know personally, and I spoke to each of them. Even at that level, it's difficult to convince people to change the way they've behaved, because it's like the fishermen, they always did it right. It's now all these other people that they have to adapt. So it's difficult for them too. But slowly we had a few years where it was fine, it was manageable, and you have all these rules. It's globally the same rules everywhere. You don't ride a shark, you don't touch a shark, you don't jump in front of it. It's just common sense, but for some people it's really like
don't touch it.
Don't never touch it. But we have to remind people of this all the time. So we created these code of conducts, and then we've been kind of lobbying the government to add it to the law in Madagascar, and we got that through 2023. So now officially anyone paying tourists out has the obligation to apply this. The problem we have now is because, Madagascar has little enforcement ability, like everywhere, but especially there. So no one is checking, if people are doing it right or not. So we've been training operators for years now. And they all come to the training session. It goes great. And then, a few days after, you're going to have a client or a tourist who's just pushing to touch a shark. And because you have this huge gap between, local people in Madagascar trying to earn a living with this, and, with still at the end of the day, are they going to be able to feed their family? Like, this is going to stay for a long time. And on the other side, extremely wealthy people who just fly in for a week. I mean, of course they're going to say yes because they want a tip, or they want, so it's become very difficult for us to do our work with the explosion of ecotourism. And there's great people who respect what guides say they have to do, and who are just normal people and will, wait for their turn and not jump off the boat. And that's just how you should behave anywhere you go in the world. When you interact with animals, you trust the guides. But at the same time, there's people just pushing for things that are not allowed for them to do that. And it's just very difficult to manage. So, but it's both ways, right? The customer needs to be asking, for the right guideline as well. So I think we need visitors to come with the right mindset, that they're not in the country, that there's, regulations you need to follow. And sometimes, the guide is going to forget to explain, or he's not going to explain right, or he's going to forget to say, you shouldn't touch the shark, and then you touch. But I mean, I think there really needs to be some engagement from commitment from the customer in wanting to do the right thing, in reading up, having that kind of knowledge prior to the trip. And at the same time, locally having the right skills so that guides, do their job properly. But it's very complicated in certain places. We, in Madagascar, very few people swim. So often people, like tourists, are going to go in without a guide because the guide cannot swim or cannot speak the language.
Wow.
So there's all of this is exciting, of course, when you visit, but easily you put pressure on a guy just by wanting to do things you shouldn't do. And then they're stressed and then they forget and then they don't dare to speak up. And it's, it's a really complicated topic. So I think, done right. And with
And social media has certainly made it harder, I would imagine. Like everyone wants to post their cool video and they have to break the rules for that.
Yeah. The expectations you have, like we have so many people now asking to see animals we've never even seen. It's like, we saw killer whales. I saw killer whales once in 7 years. And now we have people coming asking about the killer whales. So it's, I think in that way, social media is not great because, and of course, you cannot blame a business to showcase their best pictures and all of this. But equally, nothing's never guaranteed. And we run these, we call them science weeks now, where for a week, people can come out with us and we do our science. So you get to see what a science program does. But we always say nothing is guaranteed because it's, even for us, even if you're a photographer or a scientist, it's, everyone's in the same boat, literally.
Yeah, literally. And with the changing temperatures of the oceans and the shifting currents and everything, you don't know where they're going to necessarily show up.
No. I mean, last year we had a very low year. We had very few sightings. And of course, I understand people are disappointed when you come for only one day. But again, it's back to, how do you plan your travels? Yeah, I think people expect now that you plan a day at sea and you can expect to see, I don't know, many whale sharks. I mean, ideally, yes. But I think now with climate change, we have to, limit maybe our travels a bit, but then really make the most of every trip and every opportunity. And that's why, we run our trips over a week. So you have different days, you have different opportunities. I think, slow travel is the way forward with this.
Slow travel. I love that. Okay. It's on my bucket list. I am a week with you in Madagascar doing a science week is slow travel. I love that. That's like I hadn't heard that. Yeah. And that's such an incredibly important statement. Like we don't need to see to just think we're going to see everything. It's about expectations and it's about slowing down and building an attention span back, right? Like that's the biggest disintegration of human brains in recent years that doesn't work in this world.
Yeah, we even found, for example, last year, it was very crowded because of course, travel agencies and stuff, they're going to sell what was happening last year. So you have probably people still having these high expectations of what the population was doing a few years ago. But it seems now since a few years, it's slowing down and we don't know what's going on, but probably some climate related changes with the food. But it doesn't mean that, the work we do is useless. We still need to know how many whale sharks there are. So we still need to be out. And what we did last year was really, we avoided. So whenever we saw there were too many people, instead of adding the pressure to that group and to the animal. And honestly, it's not safe to put people in there when you have already many boats. Even for you as a person, it's not safe with the boat motor and all of that. So we wandered, further out, and that's when we saw the killer whales. That's when we saw manta rays, and you're just out there in the middle of the ocean, waiting, searching for something, and it's. I love that. Of course, it's harder. Maybe you're not going to see anything when another boat could have seen more, but at least you're not in the crowds. We can do our work with the science because there's fewer people. And, we had the most amazing days. We had, 6, 7 whale sharks, no one around. It was so worth it.
It's amazing. Okay. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you've got so much going on. You're heading to Madagascar soon. So let's talk about you and the Madagascar Whale Shark Project and the work you do. I think the areas that you define yourself as, which are not small, research, conservation, education. You want to tell us a little bit about, what you're doing, where you're going next, where this is headed, and what we can do to help in all three of those areas as both from afar and come visit for these week-long slow science programs.
Yeah, thank you. So initially the project, it was only like a while back now, it was just, counting how many whale sharks there were. And we quickly realized, there was a lot more to do, both in terms of science, but also in terms of engaging with communities. So both the local communities that live right next to this amazing place, but also like I said, the tourism operators. So now we've kind of expanded a lot our action. So I would say in a nutshell, our goal is really to collect data that we can use then to support whale shark conservation at the national level. Now we're also collecting data on any other species we see. So that's manta rays, other species of whales, other species of sharks now. And we do this specifically now through local students. So we welcome marine biology students from Madagascar who are writing up their master thesis. And every year we have a few of them. And that way they get training with us. They hopefully get a career out of it. And yeah, they help us.
So you're mentoring.
Yeah,
you've become a mentor spot.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's really satisfying and fun with these guys because they come from another region of Madagascar. It's quite a big trip for them. And so far, we're the only project in country where you can get, in water experience with live sharks. Most other projects, it's from the boat only, or it's with different species, or it's dead sharks. People have never seen a live shark, often mixed with, fear and all of this. And then they become really good at it. So now, yeah, my team is slowly made of my previous students that we try to keep on, and they become ambassadors for, shark conservation in Madagascar. That's the plan. And we're also, guiding, I would say, sustainable development of tourism. We're stepping back a bit from the training and now really helping to create a collective of committed operators, I'd say. I'm not sure how you translate to English, but
who are then mentoring the other operators too.
Yeah, because to create a lasting business in Madagascar is already a challenge. So all these people have managed. So I decided to empower them to come up with solutions. So that's happening as well. And then, we've helped set up an education program in 2018 now that's now run by a local partner that we help regularly. So we loan our boats for their trips. We're going to now offer kind of day-long experiences to their youth that are learning to swim now. So they have a learn to swim program. So we're kind of, I would say on this day, we're refocusing on the science a bit because the main question that is coming up a lot now is why there are less whale sharks. So I really decided to tackle that for the moment. And that means, becoming quite innovative with the methods we use. We're collaborating a lot with different experts from different fields, not just biology. And at the same time, helping to guide and facilitate other actions because we're based on Nosy, which is, I would say, the capital of tourism in Madagascar. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say mass tourism, but it's going very fast. There's hotels popping out of everywhere. But at the same time, you still have maybe but you still have a community of, people living there, both, from, the operator, from the tourism industry or the communities. I mean, it's kind of mixed, but you have people who care and we really need to kind of look after them so they continue to care and they empower other people as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I think there's a lot of increasing cruise ships as well going around Madagascar and the Seychelles too, right?
Yeah.
Which those enormous ships are not.
They're so big. I mean, it's just, there's very few big buildings there. So they really stick out.
Daunting. I mean, one of the other things which you haven't touched on is, what are the risks to whale sharks? I mean, there's this local aspect of ecotourism that is overwhelming, but there's, much larger, and we touched on climate change, there's much larger, really significant issues around that come very into the conservation aspect you're doing, the plastic problem, the changing water temperatures, you want to talk a bit that the continued shark fin industry, do you want to go down the path of the work you're doing in that area?
Yeah, it's difficult to know exactly what's affecting them because whale sharks, you probably know this because you've done your research on whale sharks, but they're made of cartilage, so they will sink when they die. We have very little information on what's killing them, pretty much. So it's difficult exactly to say, the percentage of this is causing that. But yeah, there's a lot of threats out there, and the main issue is that they grow so slowly. So for them, just to survive, to become a teenager is already 20 years in, which, a lot of stuff can happen now. And it's from marine plastics, especially microplastics that they swallow as filter feeders, to collisions with boats. But that's not just, small tourism boats. That's like huge
cruise ships,
tankers, or
oil tankers, right?
Yeah. We contributed to a massive group effort on that. There was a paper published, I think 2 years ago about this, that it's probably one of the main causes of their decline. And then, yeah, the fishing is a big one because they're migratory. So even if, where we see them, there's no industrial fishing going on. I mean, Madagascar is well known for its, illegal fishing activities, and other countries come in and fish illegally. So we don't really know what's happening.
With big nets, and
Yeah.
the juveniles get in there with the tuna, and the tuna are using the whale sharks to protect them, but it's not so good for the whale sharks.
It's kind of a gray area because there's, these observation programs now, observers programs. So most kind of regulated fisheries, they will have someone on board checking there's no listed species being caught. But of course, other boats from other countries, specifically Asia, they probably don't do that, and they turn off their AIS, so you cannot see where they go. So yeah, the only thing we know is that locally in Madagascar, whale sharks are not targeted specifically, that like they could be in other places, but other species of sharks are. So it's probably, because they're so big, they break the net. So from what I know, people don't really want them in because that means they lose the whole net, and their meat is, apparently not so great. So I'm not sure the targeted fishing is such an issue, but it's more the, illegal. We don't really know what's happening out there. But the one thing we know is that when they come and that we see them, we really need to look after them. And people need to behave. Everyone just needs to calm down and realize it's such a privilege to see them.
Yeah, one of the cool things I think that helps is I'm a past identity consultant. And when you name something and it's got a positive identity to the name, it connects people, right? And whether it's human to human or it's human to anything else, like whether you name your car or you name one of the local whale sharks so that they have these beautiful identities and we care about them and we protect them. So I think that you're doing not only counting them and tagging them and fingerprinting them, but you're giving some identity to them to bring that around as well.
Them names. They'll have a name, and it's, some we recognize quite easily. So yeah, we have a lot of pressure now to say who it is immediately on the boat because people want to know. And it's like there's more than 500 we've identified now. So we kind of recognize all of them. But yeah, we do have a little project now called the adoption program where, you can name a shark and it has its name that doesn't move anymore in our database. And it's really touching because many people reached out, to honor someone who's passed away or to name a shark for their baby. So we have just this community of sharks that, they have a story with their names as well. So it's really humbling.
It's beautiful. I know that in the Galapagos, it's been a really effective fundraising for the tortoises, for the giant tortoises to save, really connect people to. But it's a lot easier when they have the eggs and they have the hatchlings and they can identify each one and watch them grow for 100 or 200 years. And you can't do that. Like you don't get that baby, adopt a baby. Here you'll see it grow. It doesn't. There's not some things that don't work quite as well on fundraising for whale sharks.
Some sharks, we see them like there's some we see every year that, someone randomly named and no one adopted them and all the time there, but we're not going to change the names. And others, that are just passing through.
It's so funny that you said that because in the Galapagos, there was a guy who basically saved the species. There were 3 of them. One of them was Diego, who had a really connecting, memorable name. And then the other one who actually had more offspring had some name that had 3 numbers and 6 digits or, 6 letters. And there wasn't a human connection to the name. And he's kind of been forgotten, but he actually sired 3 times as many as Diego. But Diego's the hero because we connected with Diego. So you got to get the right name, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've had initially it was the old school French names. So we have Alphonse and Pierre and Michel. And then we didn't have enough for that. And then, we've had star names and all sorts of, it's a lot of fun.
That sounds absolutely fun. Okay, so let's wrap up. Tell us what you're doing, how we can help. Put it on us. How can we help?
Yeah, I mean, we fundraise. We are a small team, so it's mainly me fundraising. So obviously, the easiest way is to
do it all.
Donation. We try to be a bit more creative. So there's the adoption program. There's the opportunity to join us on the trips now. We also do the day trips where you can come just for a day. And then, if you have specific skills that you want to contribute, I mean, my team is very atypical. We don't have full times. Everyone else has a job or something else they're doing, but they contribute with what they're really good at for a little amount of time. And that works for now.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And we have a big community of old volunteers, of local students, of experts kind of around the world contributing. So I mean, if you feel you have a skill you could contribute to, I think at the moment, we really need someone in marketing, website, wording, copywriting.
This is so important, right? Yeah. Like you can do this from your desk in Dubuque, Iowa, wherever. Like it doesn't matter where you are in the world of remote world that we live in.
Exactly.
That you can jump in and be part of this amazing opportunity to identify, protect, save, and bring knowledge around this incredible species that it's very hard to connect to because they're not in, like one aquarium in the Western Hemisphere at the Georgia Aquarium. But otherwise, you can't, like seeing them in person is impossible, right?
Yeah, and that's what we struggle with often with the fundraising because, I fundraise here in Belgium or in Europe, but we don't have whale sharks near. And equally in Madagascar, we don't have many donors from Madagascar either because they just cannot afford to donate. So it's usually, we rely on the people who visit us and who were transformed by that experience. And we've had many amazing encounters with people who just, it was just the right fit. So I would say if you're looking for, a small scale, intimate experience with people who make a difference, you should definitely come see us. We still have space.
Tell us how else we can reach you. And
I mean, social media, we're there, but again, small team. And you can find our email on our website as a contact form. But soon we have a new website with more ways to contact. But I would really say, as a closing remark, that there's a lot of talk now about having a PhD, having that career, but it doesn't have to be that, and you can still have a contribution. I mean, I'm not a doctor. But I've published, a lot of papers now. And it doesn't have to be, you doing all of this. For me, it's been really eye-opening to see, the community and the network I can have. And, to be able to ask for help and for support from people who can do it. But at the same time, being creative with what feels right to you. I think, today, I think there's no more right or wrong with conservation. We just need people on board and we need to be taking action and doing stuff. I would really encourage people to do something they feel they can contribute to or have an impact. But even if it's small, even if it's a few hours a week there's so many shapes now to contribute, but it doesn't have to be, that one particular form that we've been taught is the right one, I would say. In Madagascar, we call them Marokintana, and it means many stars. It's how people refer to them.
The whale sharks?
Yeah. They're not called shark, they're just called many stars.
So beautiful. Okay, I'm going to start calling them many stars. Thank you so much, Bella. I can't wait to get to Madagascar and do this program with you and stay connected. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
This has been a production of BLI Studios, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with our other BLI produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com/podcast-BLI. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And don't forget to stay in touch with your host, Jessica, at jessica@winwinwinmindset.com. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.